That's great. All right. So what I'm planning to go over today, 2 weeks ago, we covered contacts. And I think regardless if we've uploaded, CSV files or our phones into our contacts, or if we have two contacts, this is going to be the building block from which we can use smart plans. Smart plans are going to be the focus of today. And the way to view smart plans is to think of them as the kind of business automation aspect of Command. The thing that if you had the sales meeting on Thursday, talked about, where this is ironically doing some heavy lifting in the beginning so that you're not using technology later, but are increasingly in contact with your clients in a higher, more effective way, right? And so one of the ways to do that, there are many, many different ways, but what we're going to focus on specifically in this class is the neighborhood nurture smart plan for a number of reasons, right? So one, we'll see that there are thousands of smart plans out there, and there's a library in which you can pull from and you can implement, and you can even create your own, right? That's going to be down the line, like if you've come up with a plan where you're like, I'd like to text this person 2 days from now, and then 7 days from now, I'd like to call them. And then 13 days from now, I'd like to send them an email. And then a half day later, send them another text, right? Like you can get as complicated as you would like on that front in creating your own custom smart plan. And I definitely encourage you to kind of explore that and see what it looks like to be the architect of your own smart plan. But again, what we found, explaining this in bite-sized pieces in small, kind of like granular aspects, I think is significantly more helpful. If you want to create your own smart plan, by all means, go for it. And it's an option that you can do. I will also say things like neighborhood nurture and many other smart plans that have already been created, you have access to immediately. So you can write a book or you can check one out from the library, right? And so whichever one you're feeling, maybe this is something you're really passionate about, is creating, a digital roadmap in which to interact with your clients, in which case that option is there. Say you don't want to write the book, but you'd like to check it out and gain the information, that is available to you as well. And I would say significantly easier to implement, right? Exactly. And so what we'll see too is that there's, kind of these Keller Williams featured smart plans, neighborhood nurture being one of them. And then there's, what they call the library, which is anybody and everybody's different plans for client interaction, et cetera, ways that they have automated their business that you can implement on your own. And that's kind of, that's a unique thing about Command, is that all of that is very open source, right? So you can create these smart plans in Command. They go in this library after you've quote unquote published them, and anybody can use them. Steve makes a smart plan, he publishes it to the library. It's called Steve's Excellent Smart Plan. Every one of us can go in, download Steve's Excellent Smart Plan, and then implement that on our own. Now, the other thing that I will say that I find very, why we're focusing on neighborhood nurture is that it is hyper specific to the industry that we're in. If you work in insurance or you're a school teacher, right? Like sending a birthday card is probably still going to apply and still be a nice message. It's not going to hurt anything, right? It's a nice gesture that kind of crosses all industries and careers. But with the neighborhood nurture, you're giving some very informed information that you have access to a client that is going to then inform them on a very objective and specific level as to the listings in their neighborhood, the average home price, things that have sold, things that are pending. This is something that is very specific, not only to us as people in the real estate industry, but when you give that to a client, now all of a sudden they're like, oh my goodness, not only does this person have access to all this information, which is all public, but now I'm breaking it down and I'm making it personal, right? A birthday card is personal, but it's a birthday. It happens every year, like hopefully. And then, but this is going to be specific to your business and specific to the client's interests, right? Whether they are thinking about selling their home, if they start to see that the average home prices are steadily going up and they receive this information month after month, now all of a sudden they feel empowered to be informed about the market in which they are in or they are trying to be in. So that is why I think neighborhood nurture, not only as an example of a smart plan and how that works, but also something hyper specific and hyper useful to be implemented as real estate agents at Keller Williams Command, right? And so that is the goal for today. Here we are in my command. We click on this red KW, it gives us the name of these applets. And we're going to show that there are basically two ways to implement smart plans. We're going to get an overview of what the smart plans page looks like, and then show how to implement somebody on that neighborhood nurture plan. So we click here to smart plans. We've got two things that pop up: my smart plans and library, right? So my smart plans are things that I have downloaded, and I can't remember when we talked a couple weeks ago, did everybody have these 12 people plans in their command? Does that show up on your page? Okay. I think that's been updated. I think that like at a certain point there was nothing in here. Now they're,
I think anything in my smart plan are things that you are actively used.
Okay.
Put in there, so it could be things you brought from the library and added context to, or there's some that were just there, right?
Right. I guess my question is like, at what point were they preloaded? Like at what point did these become the default setting? Because I think at one point the default setting was to not have any plans, and now there are, these 12 people plans that are like, hey, we think these are going to be the most effective, right? And earlier we had talked about like a quarterly call plan, and again that crosses industries, right? Calling somebody every 3 months, that can be helpful regardless of what industry you're in. It's a way to stay in contact with your clients, particularly folks that like a buyer or a potential listing client, folks that you want to stay in touch with. All good there, right? And then my neighborhood nurture is going to take that in a more advanced way, right? So when we look at the smart plans applet page, we have my smart plans, which are things that are now accessible to me. And then just to the right here, we have library. So Steve's excellent smart plan, after he published it, would appear here. And we could either search that by name, author name, or description. We could also search by filter, smart plans that last 3 months or are recurring. This would be how we find those things and where that library is located. So up at the top, we'll see here featured monthly call plan, 6-month just looking nurture, the Dooley Group's guide to loving clients, a lot of things there. And I think what's really helpful is by no means are you going to download, 100 different smart plans and put them into effect. But I think it's useful to go into the library and look at other people's smart plans just to kind of, jog the mind as to what is possible, right? Things that make sense, either, reaching out on a home anniversary or things like that. Things that you may not have thought of that people have already implemented and utilized at a high level. So down here over at monthly call plan, you'll see the name, the description, how many downloads, reviews of it, right? Steve makes Steve's excellent smart plan, but maybe it's not really hitting. It's not really working. People have put it into place. This would never happen. But hypothetically, it's not really hitting in the way that Steve had hoped. The reviews are going to show that. In which case, you can then take that and maybe build your own smart plan, right? So the options are kind of endless there. Keller Williams published smart plans, things that they feel, are very helpful and very useful. You can find those there, as well as top rated plans or what's new. So that's what the library looks like. Monthly call plan. We'll go back here for a moment just to say that if you want more information on that plan, we can view the steps, which will show us how this plan breaks down, right? So it's a phone call. And then after 30 days, it restarts. Now, important to remember here that these things, these touches, these client touches, these tasks will populate in that taskbar that appears at the home screen, right? So if I implement somebody on a monthly call plan, that phone call is going to populate on the home screen, like you need to call this person. And then after you do that, you can click complete task. There'll be a delay of 30 days, and then it will reappear there. That is all automated. That has nothing to do with what you are implementing yourself. And if this is something that I would like, a 31-day, 3-step, 1-touch monthly call plan, I would click add smart plan, and that would go back to that list we first saw before we went to the library. So we'll go back here. This is my list of smart plans that I have implemented. Down here, we have my monthly neighborhood nurture. So when I click this arrow here, it will show me the details of that smart plan. So the trigger is a manual add, and we'll go back to that because what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to manually add somebody to that smart plan, both from this screen and from a contact card. So the trigger for this email is a manual add. I will need to myself add somebody to the smart plan. Then an automated or manual email will go out. There's a delay of 30 days, and then the smart plan will restart. So that's the description, which can be found after we click this arrow. Right now, you'll see here that I have no contacts assigned. My quarterly call plan, if you have contacts assigned, it'll look like that. The number, and then when I click that eyeball, it will show me who has been assigned to that smart plan. But for the purposes of this tutorial, we don't have anybody just yet. When this plan was created, the duration, the number of touches meaning a text, a phone call, an email, etc. And then now over here at actions, we'll see add contact, edit, and then the 3 dots will either copy the smart plan, publish to library, or delete, right? So to add somebody to this monthly neighborhood nurture, we're going to click that icon. I'll show you again. Right here to the right, add contact. And this is from the smart plans page. We add the contact. And here are all of my contacts, right? So I can either search by name, I can organize the way that these names are listed, last name, first name, or again, going back to that contacts class and in the importance of tags, I can search by tags, right? So maybe I only want to send that neighborhood nurture email out to prospective buyers. Well, if I've tagged all of my contacts as buyers and then go here to tags and click buyer, then all of those people will appear. In which case, now the only contacts listed are the people that I've entered into command as buyers, and then I can click select all and then add the smart plan.
The other way you can use those tags when you create the contact, if the smart plan has a tag trigger as the first part of the smart plan,
Beat me to the punch.
you enter that contact and you put that tag in and hit save, it'll automatically start them on that bi-weekly or the weekly monthly neighborhood.
Absolutely. So to backtrack, because this I think is really key, and this is the way that we have. So there's a demo MC, which is basically a command for the market center. And the way that we have it up is that once contacts are entered and they're entered as agents of the office, they are automatically triggered to be added to the smart plan. So when I enter contacts of a new agent and they receive a certain tag, we have that smart plan set up to where by just receiving that tag as a contact, they are automatically subscribed into neighborhood nurture, right? And so going back here to smart plans, we see here trigger manual add. So the only way that people are getting added at this moment are if I choose to add them. But if we go here to edit, right? So this is what a smart plan looks like, the kind of like infrastructure, right? If you want to write the book, this is what it will look like. You send an email, you create the day, you create the delay, etc. Now, what's pretty key here, and what Steve's talking about, is we can add a trigger event. So when I click this, category, contacts, trigger event, contact tag. Now, when I go down here, if I add buyer, that then makes that tag the trigger. So that any contact that's entered, whether from your phone or the desktop, if they have buyer, then they are automatically subscribed to the neighborhood nurture email plan. So again, business automation, right? This is a way to put plans in place that you're not actively involved in. Go back here. So that is how we add and edit smart plans from the smart plans page. But the other thing I want to show you is that, again, this all works in cycles, right? Either working out of a contact or adding a contact from, like an opportunity or a smart plan. If we go to contacts, and Zoe, I'll use you again as an example, if you don't mind. All right, so Zoe, we entered her into my command as a contact 2 weeks ago. And I'm now thinking specifically that I want to set her up on a neighborhood nurture plan, right? It's not that I want to set up all my buyers, but we had a conversation the other day and, all of a sudden I want to make sure that she is receiving communication from me about the neighborhood in which she lives, right? So a couple of things here. The neighborhood we have, because we have Zoe's address, right? And so that lists her neighborhood, historic South Hill here. We can also add neighborhoods by searching for them or finding them on the map.
You enter a contact, Ryan, and you enter an address, will it automatically populate a neighborhood for you? Does that happen? Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Right, so then if you enter your contact and you enter an address, it'll give you.
Oh, yeah.
So then you tag it and it'll start. If it doesn't have a neighborhood, there's no address, it won't send it. Is that correct?
That's right. So the reason that this has a neighborhood listed is because that we have Zoe's address, and that address also exists in a neighborhood that is identified by command. Now, what we're seeing is had a conversation with Brittany Wheeler in Maysville. Those neighborhoods, in the way that people who live in Maysville have them defined, are not as defined as they are in command. More rural areas, the neighborhoods seem to be a little more difficult to pin down. It's not always the case, but we had that situation with Brittany in Maysville. More populated areas, you're not really going to run into that problem, but there is the potential to not have a neighborhood associated or something that may not be as accurate when you get into more rural areas.
More accurate,
Yeah,
Right.
I kind of like, data and whatnot, and it's almost like it's too specific, like, right, like Richmond, and it's like, pulling like a itty bitty pocket. Well, there's like, sales data for the past like 6 months, like there's nothing.
Right.
It just doesn't seem like there's anything to share, so then it's like, I want to add basically all the neighborhoods.
Sure.
Within the loop of Richmond, so does it combine all of it?
Yeah.
One, or will it like send 6 different
So like if you have a contact that you identified 6 neighborhoods, they will get their email, they'll have each neighborhood in the email. So in that one email, they'll have, like for me, it's like Lansdowne, window, Sandhill, each one of those, it's only like a paragraph.
I just want like more general city data.
You can do that from from the realtor mail bar, you can pull that data.
Yeah, so I guess the point being there, if, historic South Hill wasn't the place, right? Or if we wanted to give Zoe information about Lansdowne, right? We would add this neighborhood here, and then it would be added to the neighborhood nurture. And so the thing that I want to show is that we can add contacts from the Smart Plans page, but we can also add someone to a Smart Plan from their contact card. So when we go into Zoe's contacts over here, timeline, opportunities, we'll see Smart Plans listed again. Now, when we click on that, we have the option to add to Smart Plan. Now, as opposed to having a list of contacts, we now have a list of the Smart Plans that I have either downloaded or used, right? And so then my monthly neighborhood nurture. So then I would hit select, and then here we can either have this Smart Plan start now or start on the following date. And then we'd hit this button confirm, and now Zoe is set up on that plan. The other thing I want to show,
Did it send the email? Sending for that one, or is it sending it to the
no, as with a Smart Plan with an email, that's sending the email.
You can,
You know.
when you're given the option, you enter them into it. You want it to start immediately, you want it to start it play, when does it, like, you have that option.
Right. So something like a phone call, like you're still going to have to do that. But with an email,
Emails and text, schedule.
right?
Like,
Yeah.
Todd, I just got one from you.
Yeah, they match the stuff on PC, and so Jill is in my system, my contacts, so I'm using her as my test dummy.
Sure.
It's not a dummy though. And,
course not.
I set her up in the neighborhood, just as you're doing right there, and set her a note, so it's,
Yeah, and the thing that I would definitely recommend is as in the same way that we put ourselves in as a contact to see every possible way that we can add information to a contact without like, I don't know, it's a low stakes thing, but if you get your phone number wrong, like you're not gonna miss a call from yourself, right? So adding your own information as a contact, I would also subscribe yourself to the neighborhood nurture so that you understand what that looks like. And I wanted to make sure that we see this as well. The email that I received, now this email comes from, again, Demo MC, which is the command for the office in which we use to kind of organize for recruits and agents and things like this. This is the neighborhood nurture that I receive from the office. And so that's why you have Bluegrass Realty, the phone number for the office, right? Your email will have your information, right? So when people receive this email, it will be coming from Todd Bennett and have your phone number, right? It won't have the way the demo MCs are set up, the office's information.
Right, that so like if you have a Smart Plan set up in your command, then let's say you're hosting an open house and you have your proposed open house Smart Plan for that particular property. You have maybe like an 8-touch follow-up or whatever, a new contact follow-up Smart Plan you might have. If you have it set up to activate with a tag, and maybe you have the tag as that open house address, whatever it is, you can do it all from your phone as an app. Go to enter the contact, then you can just initiate them into that smart plan simply by adding that tag, saving them, and then it'll start right then in the open house. You can have that, a little bit of pre-work on your open house follow-up, have that in there. If the smart plan's not there, you can't, it's hard, I think, on the app to get a smart plan in there, but if they're in your smart plans, they're in the app when you go to that, you can then initiate. It's kind of the way to use it
For sure.
on the fly, and like in real world, open house follow-up.
Yeah. I hope what's, and again, the world of smart plans gets very vast very quickly. But again, kind of backtracking, I hope what builds off of itself is that maintaining a clean database and tagging those contacts, the kind of benefits that has moving forward, right? Because if you want to put people on a neighborhood nurture plan or any kind of smart plan, the ability to target specific audiences as opposed to everybody in your contact list, I think is very, very helpful and useful. So if we know how we're building our database and we know how we're tagging them, when it comes time to,
Does anybody have any good, I find that trying to, that initial tag library or creation and trying to understand what that is gonna look like, it's been the hardest for me to make sure that I have a consistent, well thought out tag vocabulary. Right. Like,
I don't think it's such a bad idea to create like a legend or a key, right? Because I think, and this is a bit assumptive, but like buyers and sellers, right? Like that's pretty clear, right? Like that's not gonna be, there's not gonna be a lot of ambiguity to that. It's like, these are people who would like to buy, these are people who would like
what
to
happens
sell.
then,
But what about everybody in the
there's
middle?
Here, buyer, seller, there's people that bought and sold with you that are now past clients. What do those become called? Like
Right.
that tag evolution is, I think I struggle with it being clean and deep.
Yeah.
I have,
And I think a lot of that comes with trial and error, but I think too, like if you can create a situation where you have like, okay, here are the like 5 or 6 different categories in which I would like to place people. That way, moving forward, when you have those tags, it's kind of forethought as opposed to being on the defensive every time you put in a contact. Like, where do they go? I don't know. But, or if you have like, a plan of like buyer, seller, buyer and seller, potential buyer, potential seller, like creating a legend for yourself in that way might shore up some of those, some of those things. All right. Any questions?
As far as, excuse me, as far as frequency, I guess you kind of, if some people you really just want to have maybe quarterly sent out. I assume we go and individually schedule how often, like if you just have the smart plan, you select all and you have it set to where they go every week, then I think we would probably need to go in individually to be able to create that to maybe go once a quarter or something like that. Is that correct?
That's right.
for what type of plan, Kelly?
Well, like I'm thinking of the neighborhood nurture. Like I think pretty much almost everybody could be on a neighborhood nurture as long as you have their address. And so, those could be sent out, weekly, bi-week, bi-monthly, monthly, quarterly.
What does he say? As we look here, I mean, there's a bi-weekly as well as a monthly. And I'm sure if we looked in the library, there's probably a 6-month, a year, things like that.
Why would it be great is it gives you 26 touches every other week, 52 weeks. And the monthly is only 12 touches. So.
Well,
I mean,
right, but
maybe you have somebody that you only want something once a month.
right. Like if I know someone is not really wanting to get touched every day by a different smart plan, right? They get this one, they get that one, they get this one. And maybe I know they're really happy where they are. I know they're not moving anytime soon. I'd rather them get something maybe once a quarter, just gives them a little snapshot, or maybe once a month, right? Just so that they don't get like worn out. I get, people get worn out with their box and then they don't even open things, right? They're like, crap, there's another thing coming from her. And so I'm very, very leery of that, to make sure that what I give them is of value and it's at a right amount that, so if I'm saying that I started it and I went in and I just kind of clicked all, right, it's going to send to those that I have the addresses for whatever that setting is. If it's the monthly neighborhood search, right? Neighborhood watch, but I just wonder if then, if I say, somebody says, hey, thanks for sending that, could you send it every week? Or, hey, thanks for sending it, could you send it maybe less often? I assume we can do that just by going into the individual contact and
Correct.
tweaking that. Is that correct?
I think you have to have a smart plan for each requested frequency, right? You have your biweekly, your monthly, your quarterly, and you would just then make sure that your contact is in the correct plan for their needs.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And I think you bring up a really good point, which needs to always be said when we're talking about smart plans and really cold terminology like business automation. This is not a replacement for client interactions. This is a helpful tool that creates communication, but is in no way a replacement. And I think, Kelly, you bring up a really good point. You can be interacting with somebody too much pretty quickly. And so I think that even though these possibilities are there, and all of a sudden the client is getting an email and a birthday card and a home anniversary, be very mindful of how much you are sending out. Just because command has all these possibilities, you can do all these things, I think we all know very quickly this can become an overwhelming situation and detrimental to your business, as opposed to something that enhances it. So that is always a caveat, whether we're talking about database opportunities or whatever, but I feel like it's particularly pertinent when it comes to smart plans, when we're sending communication that maybe we're not even really, the idea is that we're not thinking about it all the time. So that is always something to keep in mind.
And I think it helps too if like a neighborhood nurture, that's interesting information. Most folks probably are like, oh, that's cool, I'm gonna do that today, and they grow to expect it and look forward to it. Then you just figure out what your business looks like and how many touches via smart plans you want to have, right? And what that value is from each touch for your client.
Yeah. And I think you bring up another really good hypothetical. It's like, okay, I put all these buyers on a neighborhood nurture. Most of them, no feedback, but some of them too much feedback or too little. Well, now all of a sudden we're getting personal again, right? Now we understand those clients on a personal basis. And then, obviously, if somebody told me they were getting too many emails from me, I would not sign them up for another email. I would try and, roll that communication back. But then that's an opportunity to be personal and be like, hey, I'm so sorry. That was never my intention. You let me know what's best for you. And all of a sudden, the importance of meeting somebody where they're at takes precedence again. Or in the reverse situation, someone's like, yo, I loved that neighborhood nurture email. That was so great. Can I get that, more often? All of a sudden, that person's more interested as well. And you're understanding these people on a very specific and personal level, which is in fact the goal. This is a tool to help you get there. But I think, again, we can all agree that understanding people, where they're coming from, where they're thinking, their desires, things like that, in a intentional and meaningful way, is again the goal of these technology platforms. And that's going to do it for me.
I have a question.
Yes.
So when I sent that for Jill as a test, it sent her an email with all this cool information, the average price and all that stuff. In 30 days, I will get a notice that I have a task to do it automatically send her the newest version of that same deal.
Yeah, you will like, because that is a recurrent, what they call a recurring plan, that will just happen at the end of the delay, right? So it's a 31-day delay, so 31 days from now, that email will send again. And so long as Jill is subscribed to that plan, which is recurring, it will continue to happen until you take her off.
And I was also curious if someone unsubscribe from emails that I sent, meaning like the spam thing, and so I tried to add myself back to a plan, that email back to the plan, and it automatically went left. It wouldn't
Interesting.
alert me. It didn't alert me, but it wouldn't let me add them to a new plan because I had said I'm unsubscribing from anything from this person.
That's good to know.
Yeah. I could say
Yeah.
it is, yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, again, it goes back to that point. It's like we do, the last thing we want to do is be like hounding or not listening to our clients, which is essentially what that would be. You unsubscribed and then I send you another email. Well, that's telling me that, or, that's me telling you that I did not listen to you and do not care what you have to say, which is not how we want to have client interactions, right? And so that's good to know that if you unsubscribe, you are not going to be able to do that moving forward.
So I have a girl with Smartplan, it sent the email to her, did she have to then, if I understand correctly, she had to receive that? Like, accept herself on the Smartplan that I assigned her?
No, it comes just as an email that shows up.
Okay, so she would have to like unsubscribe.
She can't unsubscribe.
Right.
Subscribe. I need, like, I don't think it'll alert you that I. subscribed.
It'll show up in command as a notice, a little,
It'll notice.
a little bell up there, that'll show up there.
Or say that she has to subscribe, that's what you can do that.
Jill Harrington doesn't unsubscribe.
Good to know. Yeah, you get notifications of an unsubscription and then you take it deeply personal and then let it ruin your day. I think that's always the goal, right? Which is a reminder that I check the RSVPs daily and take all of that personally as well. Yeah. Oh, that's a much more interesting topic. Yeah, Keeneland, April 14th, tailgate on the hill, 11 to 3. The RSVP got sent out yesterday, both text and email, please.
What's the song list request?
Oh, that was a personal indulgence where when you fill out the RSVP, you will also be asked what song you would like to see added to the playlist. By all means, you don't have to submit, but I would deeply encourage that you send a song.
2 songs I added to the list.
Oh, I saw.
Very excited.
Yeah, didn't know you were a YouTube guy, Steve, and here we
YouTube
are.
is my #1 all-time favorite band.
There you go.
I picked a Beautiful Day. I was thinking Keeneland, Beautiful Day.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
go. Then I picked up a Randy Carlisle song. Randy Carlisle.
Yeah. So yeah, here we are,
So
Keeneland,
my other question is,
April 14th.
what RSVP system did you use? Because that's the thing that I would love to have in command. If I'm organizing an event in command and setting up a series of, hey, here's an email, nice email invitation to this Keeneland event. RSVP, I can't do that from command.
Right.
There's an integrated RSVP that comes back to me.
That's I don't know who signed us up, but it's a platform called RSVPify, RSVPify. And I think it's a subscription-based service. And what we do is we build those little landing pages
Just throw it in there.
and then we send, they basically, they're like, yeah, you build custom landing pages and then we'll send that once it's published. We'll send that link out. We sent that in an email yesterday. We sent it out as a text and we can share that link with anybody and we'll take them to that landing page. And then we receive, the information about whether you are or not attending or, how much you like YouTube. Turns out. So,
I would rather you recommend it.
What's that?
She's rather you rec varsity.
I got you. Unfortunately, we can't play movies at the moment at the tailgate. I guess we could.
Sometimes. Like that's.
Those,
Like a podcast.
I was gonna say, those might not get played at the tailgate. I mean, I don't want to like shoot down the things that you would like to have added.
Of the days, the median price of homes in the US was lower this February than it was last February.
I guess we,
More than a decade of year-over-year increases, the longest on record.
That would make me drink a lot more.
yeah, just like a very loud true crime podcast. What's that? I didn't. I take this as a compliment. Yeah. Oh. I don't take that so much as a compliment. But yeah, the RSVP went out yesterday for Keeneland. That's our next big event on the docket. It's a Friday.
You're what? You're ashamed? What comment? It's glaring where it's a little, what's in that shake up over there? Get a little. Is that vodka?
All right. Kelly, thanks again. We'll see you soon.
Your husband. just
Thank
brings
you.
all the flow of material.